What is your nobody will ever believe this story? One time when I was a teenager I was playing pool with friends. The pizza arrived or whatever and I took one last shot just as everyone was leaving and sank like 5 balls. It was the single best move I have ever made in any game I have ever played. But no one saw it and there was no way to take credit for it without sounding like a liar. I knocked a cup of coffee off my counter and caught it and no coffee spilled out of it. Burn the witch. Was doing a service call at an equestrian farm. I went to the bathroom in the barn to take a leak. The door was slightly ajar and the light was off. I pushed open the door and hit the light only to see a goat dressed in a fleece vest eating toilet paper off the roll. He gave me this look like to say WTF are you looking at? I turned off the light and left. I was once arrested for dueling. That was the charge. I saw a bird unscrew a light bulb once. Orlando Bloom winked at me once when walking past. I'm a dude. Heath Ledger was sitting in my seat on an airplane when I was about 13 on a family holiday. I knew him only from 10 Things I Hate About You at the time and it was my favorite film ever. He was in the right seat but on the wrong plane and jumped up and ran across the tarmac. Simpler time. Small airport in Spain. No one ever believes me. I once threw the inside of a pen at least 9 feet clear across a room and skewered a fly that was annoying me. Legit I felt like a ninja and have no way to prove it to anyone. Not gonna lie it's probably my peak and it's all been downhill ever since. I saw a bee eat a piece of cheese. It was horrifying. I started out in the normal math class until my teacher realized I should switch to the advanced class because I got perfect scores on everything. We were just about to start the chapter about telling time when I made the switch. The advanced math class already knew how to tell time. I had all digital clocks at my house. My ex, American. Met him in the US. And my other ex, Dutch. Met him 3 years later in Argentina, work at the same office in Amsterdam. They are colleagues. I found out cause I saw a FB post in which they were at the same office, 2 years after me and Dutchie broke up. And I still live in Argentina. Also, some years ago, I was in a relationship with a guy. We lived together in a tiny apartment. The relationship ended in a terrible way. 4 years later, I started dating another guy. He takes me to his house. It was the apartment I used to share with my ex. And let me tell you, Buenos Aires is a huge city. I held a stick straight up in the air while pretending to be a magical creature and then it immediately started raining heavily. Was lying in bed watching a movie and too lazy to move. Saw a small harmless spider drop down from a thread on the ceiling, obviously heading for the far side of my bed. Even if it wasn't venomous I didn't want to share my bed with it. But also didn't want to move. Not thinking it'd actually do anything I reached out my arm towards it, but still quite a few feet away, and started waving my fingers at it in annoyance. To my absolute surprise it immediately stopped its descent and actually retracted back up its line while I was sitting there in surprise. Took me a couple of seconds to realize that my hand must have looked like the most giant freaking spider he'd ever seen, standing on its back legs and waving the front 5 and the FCK off or I'll wreck you dance. I watched a kid on his bike get hit by a car. Somehow he got up like it was nothing. Shock and adrenaline are a hell of a drug. My wife has an artifact, reflective metallic nose ring looking object, embedded in her lower left rib cage between the bone and fatty tissue. It was discovered after an MRI for unrelated issue. Watched an ant pick up its injured friend with its 2 front legs and ran away on its last 2 legs like a human would. Edit. I'm aware that ants have 6 legs. I found and caught a shiny ho-oh first time playing Pokemon Gold. All my friends thought I cheated. I saw David Wenham, Theramit, Lotta, at a cafe downtown. He was just walking by with someone I assume may have been a friend or partner. You just don't get celebrities where I live very often. I told one of my mates and he didn't believe me. It was him. Johnny Sins took a picture of me and my wife in Maui on our honeymoon. I chickened out of asking for a pic. Edit. For us. I feel like I should clarify given the topic. I legit found a $100 bill on the ground. I couldn't believe it myself, but I took it straight to the ATM and it was accepted. I used to work at a movie theater and found a $100 bill on the floor of the bathroom. But an old man had just left, so I ran out and asked if it was his. He said it was, so I gave it back. When he opened his wallet, it had a lot of other big bills, so I think he was telling the truth. Edit. I snuck into the Canadian Parliament building at around 1:30 AM on the 27th of June 1998. The Owls. When my grandpa passed away in November of 2008, I was at my dad's house. The front yard is almost enclosed by pine trees. I kept hearing weird noises, so I decided to go outside and see what it was. We shone a light on the trees and was greeted by many pairs of eyes. There had to be at least 20 owls just hanging out in the trees. My grandpa had an interesting way with birds and we had a very close bond. That was the only time the owls had ever been to our house. Until my mastiff passed away last year. I was home alone, brushing my teeth, when I heard the familiar sound. I thought I was going crazy. But no. There they were. Owls in the trees. A completely different time of year. 12 years later. The owls keep watch. Got a hole-in-one playing golf by myself with no one else around me on the course. Most of my friends take my word it, but still give me a hard time saying it never happened. My old boss has a NXIVM brand. I saw it when she reached up to get something and panicked because it just seems rude to point out the branded skin on another person. I immediately recognized the symbol and it was surreal. I was immersed in podcasts and stuff about that at the time. When I was a kid, I got a shoebox and filled it with some sand, a pile of sugar, and a few ants. Like 3 or 4. I brought that box into the house and put it in my cabinet. I forgot about the box for like 2 days. When I went to check the box, because I thought the ants couldn't get out, I saw something that still seemed insane to me. But I know what I saw. A military-style formation of ants. In a large rectangle. Sorted by sizes with the smallest ones in front. Like 2, might have been 4, big ones in front of the others facing the formation. The large ones were facing away from the cabinet doors. The ants remained still for like 2 or 3 seconds, then scattered in every direction. You ruined their boot camp graduation ceremony. Nobody really believes I can smell pressure. This is pretty sad, but the night my mom died, I lived in the same house. Sleeping down the hall, I was asleep and I suddenly woke up to a cold sinking feeling. I went into my living room to check on my mom and she took her final breath soon after. There was no way my body could have known, as I couldn't hear nor see her from my room. Weird stuff like that happens more often than you think. My dad told me that he was taking a nap after school when he had a dream where he was talking to his grandfather and that he was telling my dad that he had to go. My dad then woke up to the phone ringing. My grandmother picked up the phone. And it was her sister calling to let them know my dad's grandfather has passed. Sean Astin, Goonies. Lotta. Stranger Things, was in my bar one night. I was outside sneaking a quick smoke when he randomly walked up, hugged me and said, "You got this." I didn't even recognize him at first until someone mentioned who he was and I closed his tab. I was the only bartender and had been at capacity for 6 hours. I went and watched Pirates of the Caribbean at the theater with Linkin Park after they finished their part in a concert in DC. I once saw a kid strangle another kid at homeschool gym class. The victim survived and the strangler showed up at class again a few weeks later. Homeschool? Were you the one strangled? I keep waking up to my lights flickering at 5:55 am. It's been about 7+ times and nobody believes me. Just moved into this house a few months ago. If it happens again, I'm getting a camera installed. Totally believable. Probably a local business automatically starting up some kind of machinery causing a power sag. Like a miniature temporary but reoccurring brownout. I took a one-way flight 1,200 miles away. 7 months later I took another one-way flight back home and sat next to the same random person. I once threw a frisbee into a basketball hoop from further than full court in a gym with about other 25 people in it. Not a single person saw and no one believed me. One day I noticed my dog standing at the glass door with something in his mouth. It was a $5 bill. We went to BK and grabbed him a cheeseburger for a reward. The next day he was at the door with a $1, so we got him another burger. Figured it was only fair as he paid for it. My sister and I shared a room in HS and would get ready together most mornings without saying a word as we would just be too tired to interact. I was sitting at the vanity one morning and her on the bed, when I had a sudden urge to flick my scrunchie. All I said was "watch this," and released the hairband across the room. I don't know how to explain this, but the scrunchie went right around the post of the bed, which was a sphere the size of a big fist. When I tell you, logically this should not have happened. We didn't even celebrate. All we could do was stare at each other puzzled. The silence was then broken as my dad walked in. I can only imagine how insane we looked as we tried to explain to him what just happened. Honestly, it's not that serious and this is my first post. But I think about this a lot. Watched a raven do a backflip into a corner, catch a bat, and fly off into the distance while I walked to class. Childhood friend murdered his mother. FBI came to my house in the middle of the night to arrest him. It's very disturbing and true. Was playing darts at a bar and hit the back of a dart with another dart. I once actually had to give legit CPR to a man when he had a heart attack. He was dead when the paramedics got to the house, but the medics took over and got him back. He died again in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. But they brought him back again. If it wasn't for me, he would have never had a chance. Also, doing CPR for real is f-king exhausting. I was at a friend's off-grid cottage with our combined amount of 16 dogs. It is a 1,200-acre property with over 2 kilometers of basically off-roading to get to the cottage itself. With very poor cell reception. We were out for a romp in the woods to take out a problem beaver dam. It diverted a river from draining into the lake and flooding the road instead. So the dam is absolutely massive, like a good 20 feet drop on one side. So we finally get through enough that water started pouring through and my friend realizes her key fob is missing. Cue massive panic. The other key fob is over a 3-hour drive away. One of her dogs that was up on the dam with us stuck his head into the moving water and pulled out the key fob. Had we not both witnessed it, we would never have believed each other, and trying to tell other people what happened, with both of us able to tell the same story, is still met with disbelief. I kicked a wasp that was flying towards me midair like a damn ninja and killed it. No witnesses except my dog and God. I attended the only grade 7-12 school in my city. When I was but a small 7th grader. I went to get a drink of water and watched idly as some 12th grader in a Big Bird costume la Sesame Street pogo stick down the hallway for a grad prank. Nobody believed me. My fire buddy shot someone through. Right word IDK English is hard. Me, I have a mark on both sides of my chest. Is he still your buddy? I saw my mom's 2 pet dogs, miniature poodles, having a human-like conversation, moving their little mouths and coming to some type of agreement. OMG, finally. I was at a local jazz bar club. After enjoying a few cocktails, I have the urge to use the ladies' room. So I walk and plop my ass down on the toilet when suddenly, a large woman burst in and proceeds to pull down her pants and piss on the f-king ground. All while making eye contact with me and while my pee was still coming out. I was in shock. And all she said was, "Oh girl, I just couldn't hold it any longer." It was so surreal. I just walked out. Didn't wipe and didn't wash my hands. I was shook to the core. Edit. It was a one-person stall in a really old bar. If I remember correctly, the door locked, but if you jiggled it enough it would open. It all happened so fast and I had already had a few drinks lol, so some details are blurry. This was about 3 years ago. Edit. My aunt had a creative writing class in high school where she sat either in front of or behind Dwayne Johnson. I can't remember. She said that she never talked to him because he was such a jock. My mom was in class with Keanu Reeves in high school. And she later met him again coincidentally when he went in the wrong area of a banquet hall and he bought her whole workplace drinks. I saw a morbidly obese lady in a Walmart operating a rascal run over a midget on Black Friday. If it was in a movie I would have thought it absurd. I was once in an auto parts store and one guy in the stock shelves calls out Shelly E. Then someone starts talking about Candy Mountain. One customer starts quietly singing the Candy Mountain song. I start in with Magic Light Luridan talk. And we're all having an awesome time. Except this one customer. He has no clue what the FCK is happening. He sets down the box of something or other he's holding and backs away to the exit, trying not to let any of us out of his sight as he makes his escape. That I hatched a shiny, flawless avionics. Mine. I woke up during open heart surgery and 100% believed I had a ladder match at WrestleMania. Not mine. My mum was only a kid during the Troubles in Ireland back in the day. She was walking to school one day and someone got shot beside her. The bullet ended up ricocheting and went through my ma's leg. She went on to school and was too afraid to tell my grandparents. Oh. Forgot about this one. I live in Belfast, Ireland, and one day I was walking to work with my earphones in listening to Fozzy. Turned a corner and there was the lead singer and WWE superstar Chris Jericho. Even showed him my phone and that I was halfway through a song so he didn't think I was bullshitting. Anyway. Spoke for about 30 minutes. Taught him some Irish Gaelic phrases and took photos. He even posted me on his Instagram. A totally average nerdy teenager in the late 80s. Hooked up with a famous blonde sitcom star a few years older than me in a Nick nightclub I wasn't even old enough to be in legally and ended up having my one and only one night stand. Given the way both of us looked at the time. It's not worth telling anyone that I know it happened because they would never believe it. The one good friend I told back when I was in college. Instead of responding with any sort of disbelief or claiming I was lying instead said I never really thought she was hot. My dog ate my homework. I once had a gun pulled on me in a laundromat by a crackhead who just wanted to listen to the headphones I was wearing. A lady I work with wanted me to mow her lawn over the weekend and said she wouldn't be home. She gave me directions and said there's a green mower underneath her porch with a full gas can. When I got there it was empty so I went to fill it up. Came back and mowed her yard. The grass was about 6 inches high and looked like it hadn't been properly taken care of in years. It took me hours because I pretty much had to go over everything multiple times. Monday morning she asked me why I didn't mow her lawn. I noticed people won't stop a person who's accidentally mowing the wrong lawn. I saw a plane fall out of midair once. It just stopped and tumbled to the ground. Small plane, not commercial obviously. A squirrel high-fived me. No one believes that I can see brand new fully functioning fluorescent lights flickering. I have Asperger's though so that might have something to do with it. It's very annoying. I want to die when I'm in buildings with them. I had an NDE. No, I'm not going to explain it because nobody would believe me. I can tell you, without doubt, that when you die, it is not the end of you. You still go on.